everyone. Welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how exciting lights are in Toyotas before lockers, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me for another episode of the Snail Trail Off-Road podcast is the one and only Mr. Jimmy Jett. Mr. Jimmy JJ Jett, how are you doing today, sir?
I am great.
Great. You Tony the Tiger?
No, that's my brother.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like a tiger. Is he?
He kind of, yeah. Sure. He's a bit orange and black striped.
Yeah. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Had some nachos.
Oh, yeah.
We're good.
Those are tasty.
I might be burping a couple times here during the episode. Sorry, everybody.
I got an horchata and mixed it with my coffee. Now it's like cinnamon coffee.
Coffee chata?
Coffee chata.
Or
Orfee.
Orfee?
But it's tasty, whatever it is. Somebody needs to make that into like a Dutch Bros thing.
I've heard if you take coffee and add Fireball to it, it does the same thing.
You know what I did the other day? I poured a Coca-Cola in my coffee.
Did you? Okay.
I made my own Coke and coffee.
Vanilla Coke and coffee?
It wasn't nearly as good, but I didn't want to rock around with 2 drinks. And so I poured the Coke that I had for lunch. I just dumped it into my coffee cup and I walked around with that the rest of the day. And it was fine.
Does the assistant know about that?
Oh, yeah. The mini assistant was like, Daddy, what are you doing? And the assistant's like, he likes those Coke and coffees.
That's funny. The secretary would not be enthused. She'd probably just walk away and act like she doesn't know me anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody saw, but until the mini assistant started yelling. Yeah. So
nice.
It was good. It was fine.
I'm interested. I'd like to try one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't tried like an actual one?
No, I haven't.
Oh.
I haven't tried a Coke and coffee yet. I don't think.
Okay. Well, we can solve that.
Cool.
If I can find them. I think they stopped making them.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
Not enough people like me liked them.
Yeah. That's kind of like balls.
Yeah,
I have
not a lot of people like balls.
Yeah. So not a lot of people like them.
Sherpa found them somewhere though.
Yeah, it shipped them into me.
Shipped you a bunch of balls.
Yeah. I was very impressed by the case of balls I got.
Mm-hmm.
They were very tasty though.
I'm going to go out on a limb and just say, I don't think you actually appreciate the drink as much as you enjoy saying the name of the drink more.
It's a brilliant brand. Are you kidding me?
You're like, I just want to talk about balls. So
that's true.
But now I need to put something there.
In my mouth?
Well, you need to you need to talk about something specific.
Yeah.
Right? That you can actually talk about out in the air.
Oh, so you're... Are you just saying that I just want to talk about balls and it just happens that there's a drink named balls and that's just a coincidence?
Yeah, pretty much.
You might be right.
Yeah. But the original, the drinks are pretty good. But the person that made the drink called balls probably just wanted to talk about balls and made a drink so that he can continue to talk about balls.
Do you think that Kyle just made Moose Knuckle because he wanted to talk about moose knuckles?
That or he got made fun of for having a moose knuckle a lot. And he's like, oh, you're interested in my company? Let me tell you about it. They're like, no, you have a moose knuckle. He's like, yes, my company.
It's my marketing campaign.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What are we talking about here today?
I don't know. Nothing that's on topic. That's for sure.
Right. Anyways, I'm glad everybody enjoys the fun we have
the
on
random
the podcast.
shit that goes through our heads. Yeah.
Man, what are we doing? Today's Monday.
We've got a main topic for everybody, but before we get to the main topic, we got a little bit of housekeeping.
Just a wee tiny bit.
Yeah, let's go with our irate 4x4 Snail Squad giveaway. Is a present from me that you're gonna want. And then the runner-up will get Tyler's. I don't know if anybody's
actually going to want my present, but they're going to laugh a lot at it.
So I'm pretty much winning by default? Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to destroy you regardless of whatever you decided to choose. Even if you were trying to beat me, you would lose. I've got an awesome present.
Okay. I'm waiting.
I know.
All right.
You're not going to find out till January
I
sometime.
know. It's annoying.
I just might send it to somebody random so I can open it sooner because I'm so excited.
So are we getting to look at each other's gifts before we send them out?
Nope, I'm not.
So we get to find out about them once the person posts
Yeah.
it too? Okay.
I think we did talk a little bit last year about it.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, hey, here's a bunch of the things that I'm throwing in my gift box. And you're kind of like, okay. But this year, I'm not showing you. I'm just sending it out to the winner.
Okay.
And if you want to win my present, because that's the one you're going to want to win, not Tyler's. That's the runner-up one. Then you need to, or something from Italy, apparently. Then you need to go over to Irate 4x4, go down to the Snail Trail 4x4 forum, which is under the watch, listen, and discuss section, and go sign up for that gift tier.
Cool. Yeah, tier.
The gift tier tire.
The tire. That's how it's spelled.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah, go do that over on Irate 4x4. And we've got reviews as always. We did read a couple of them on the last episode. So you guys know how to do that. And if you listen to the last episode, you know all about our bribery scheme and how that's happening. So go do that over on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review or just tell your friends about us or do both. We'd appreciate both.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys a used catalytic converter if you do both.
Sharing the podcast with your friends is the number one way to help us grow the podcast.
Yeah.
Number 2 is probably posting a review on Apple iTunes.
Yeah. Actually, an interesting way that I saw a couple people do was on Facebook group pages. A topic came up and somebody was like, oh, hey, this podcast covered this topic. You can listen to them and find some information about it. And I was like, hey, that's me and Jimmy.
Oh, really?
It was kind of fun. Yeah.
Which one was it?
I don't remember, but it's happened a couple times now. I want to say one was the Rubicon. That's happened before on the Rubicon Trail page. I want to say there was one about something electrical or ham radio.
Ham radio or compressors, maybe.
One of those two.
I mean, we did specifically do the logistics of going to the Rubicon.
Yeah, true.
Because that question gets asked a lot.
That's true. We did, yeah.
And we were hoping that would answer a lot of people's questions. And if people were curious about going to the Rubicon, they could go find that episode.
Yeah. Which I'm not sure what episode that is.
No.
We'll let you guys know in a bit. Let's see. What else do we got? Anything else? Anything at all?
No voicemails. We ran out of those last week.
We did.
If you do want to call and leave us a voicemail, we do appreciate them. We like them. They're fun. And we love hearing about what you guys are up to out in the world.
Yeah. One thing I did want to kind of make an announcement about.
Okay, I'm ready.
Is a story/post that Blue Ribbon Coalition did recently.
Oh, yes. I was tagged in that.
Yeah. So it's more details on how the BLM leasing thing is going to happen. Right. There was talks. I want to say we've mentioned it in the past. And then it got talked a little bit when I interviewed Ben while I was out at Trail Hero. And some more information has come out now about the BLM long-term lease plan. And it's essentially has come out. They're trying to find a way to let corporations and private entities purchase leases of public land in order to let that private industry manage the land.
That sounds weird.
It's super weird. It's a crazy long document, and it makes no sense when you hear it. You're like, why would a private organization want to be in charge of managing a public land?
Right. Yeah.
And the way that it is, I have come to understand it now, is that the government or somebody is trying to treat public lands the same way they did cap and trade. Do you know about cap and trade?
I don't know what that is.
That's with carbon emissions standards.
Oh.
So if a company, you have your certain size of your company, whatever, you have a goal for your carbon emissions for the company, right? And if you're underneath that goal, you can sell your excess.
Oh. That's how Elon Musk is doing it.
That's the way a lot of big companies will do.
Yeah.
They'll sell their excess emissions to other companies so that the other companies can go over their emissions. The kind of the same thought here is that by letting private companies purchase public lands, they can now decrease their carbon emissions even more because they're managing natural resources for the government.
Yeah. Our 1 acre building creates so much emissions. We had to monitor and regulate this whole entire, the state of California or whatever. Yeah, that's stupid.
And so why
don't you just solve the problem?
Right. And I'm like, that's not an excuse to let a bunch of private organizations and corporations and Wall Street ultimately is what's going to turn into buy and be in charge of public lands. And so it sounds like a do-gooder, good idea kind of thing, but it's like, come on, in actuality, in reality, how much is this going to get abused?
Right.
Like we're already seeing the BLM, which was a great concept initially, right? An organization that's run by the government that holds public lands in trust for the public. And how much is that being misused and abused right now?
A lot.
So I don't know. I'm very, very weary and anxious of it. And I think that a lot more research needs to be done. I think that there's just so little information out there about how the process will work and what are the safeguards of it all, that it's all a big unknown thing right now. But that looks like that's where that whole thing is headed.
Got it. Yeah. I know that. I think we were both asked. I didn't know how you could do that, but I'm pretty sure we're both contributors or collaborators on that post. And so if you are interested about that, what we're talking about and understanding a little bit, getting a fraction of what's going on, you can go over to the Blue Ribbon Coalition's page, Tyler's page, 4x4 Toyota Tyler, or Snail Trail 4x4. And that reel is up on all 3 of our pages. So go learn a little bit about that. And if you don't like what's going on, then this is just another reason you need to be supporting off-road organizations like Blue Ribbon Coalition.
Yeah. We did something for More Flight, and it was, I don't remember what it was now, but we got a comment from somebody on social media saying, hey, why can't we just all go off-roading and leave politics out of it? And
got it.
My immediate response was, I wish we could.
Yeah.
But we really can't. I mean, the more and more that we sit back and leave politics out of it, the more and more we're going to lose our off-roading.
Yeah. Politics is coming to us.
Yes. Politics coming to us, whether or not you like it. And unfortunately, just like Ben said, if you buy an off-roader and you go off-roading, you have now put yourself into a political class.
Yes.
It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. So
pretty much everything you're classifying yourself one way or another.
Yeah. So yeah, it sucks, but that's the way that life is right now. And if you care about your off-roading, then look up some of these issues and figure out what's going on around you. So,
and support one way or another, whether it's monetary or volunteering or donations or something. You can support one way or another.
Yeah. So, that's all I got. Let's see. Should we get over to our main topic, our campfire discussion today?
Yeah, I'd say let's get off this sad stuff and move over to some more happy news.
Sweet. Sounds good to me. So we'll be right on back. Everybody grab your favorite drink. Jimmy's got Orphe today. Orphe. And we'll be right on back after a couple words from Brian over at 4-Wheel Underground.
Are you tired of landing in potholes and bouncing off obstacles? To play at your full potential, correctly tuned coilovers allow you to float over the rocks and gain more traction. At 4-Wheel Underground, our full suspension systems include custom-tuned coilovers for your specific application. To learn more, visit 4wheelunderground.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentle-ladies, to today's campfire discussion. I'm actually kind of surprised, Jimmy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that we have never done this topic before.
Me too.
How have we gone 460 episodes and never really done a whole episode on this?
I have no idea. This seems like one of the things you would want to cover first, but apparently we covered lights and
air
a
conditioners,
bunch of lighting and lockers. Never.
Really. Yeah, we have never done a full episode on lockers.
We've done winches.
Yeah.
We've done axles.
Yeah, we've done lots
tires,
of axles, recovery equipment, camping equipment,
T cases,
suspensions.
Suspension versus tire size.
Uh-huh.
And never lockers.
No.
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. When you mentioned this, I was like, no, we had to have talked about lockers. I was like, wait a minute. And I was like, wait, I don't think we have actually.
We even Googled ourselves to see if we had covered this.
Yeah. So crazy
I'm sure
stuff.
we've talked about it, but it never has been a main topic.
It's never been like focused. It's always been like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about switching between air and e-lockers, or, oh yeah, we put a Detroit in Bobcat or whatever it was. Like we never
Grizzly, but yes,
Grizzly.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about lockers and all the different styles of lockers that are out there, and maybe when you would want to use which locker that's available, and the goods and bads of each kind of style. And I think we got a good little list of the different styles and advantages and disadvantages. And I do probably want to put a little slight disclaimer out there that we are not locker professionals.
Yep. That is very true.
We learned about one doing the slight bit of research before we started this conversation.
Yep.
But I think we got our head wrapped around it well enough that you will follow along and understand the concepts and context of what we're talking about. But we might miss the fine names of some smaller objects like spider gears.
Yes.
Which I blanked on earlier.
Yeah. Those little things inside
the little
the
gears that spin.
Yeah.
In a differential.
Yeah. It should be fun. I think this is going to be hopefully eye-opening. Hopefully you guys get to learn something here. Like Jimmy said, we're not the end-all be-all. We don't install lockers and manufacture lockers ourselves. So we are not professionals when it comes to lockers. But we've dealt with quite a few different kinds of lockers.
Yeah.
And we've been around lockers a lot in our lives.
And we use them every time we go out.
I used mine today.
Did you?
No.
I use mine every time I drive Bobcat.
That is true. You do.
Yeah. Every single time. And we'll get to that near the end of this episode.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk first about what is a locker. Is that if you say that you used a locker and you use one every single time you go out in Bobcat, does that mean you're putting your vehicle in four-wheel drive?
No.
Oh, well, you're not locking the vehicle in four-wheel drive?
No.
What is a locker then? What is a locker?
I would, see this. Throw it at me. I don't know exactly how the terminology would be, but I would say a locker is a way of mechanically connecting the passenger side wheel and the driver side wheel together so that they can both move the vehicle forward or backwards.
Yeah, so they turn at the same rate all the time, or as much as possible, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know how many times I've been out on runs with people on trips, and I'm like, you do have your locker on? They're like, yeah, I'm in four-wheel drive. Like, that's
not your locker.
That's not your locker.
That's four-wheel drive, buddy.
Yeah.
Do you have a locker?
Which without lockers could be two-wheel drive.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, a locker is something that just makes the driver and passenger wheel on the same axle turn at the same rate as each other.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. It forces that turning at the same rate, right? So what happens if you don't have a locker? Like, why would they turn at different rates?
I think that kind of brings us into our first kind of item on this list, which is an open differential, which is no locker, nothing inside of your third member or differential at all. And that's really, it's considered an open setup.
Well, there's something in your differential.
There's those little spinny, geary things.
The spinny things in there.
Right, but those spinny things they're not a locker. No. It's not the mechanical connection from one side to the other that helps them spin together.
Correct.
An open differential has spider gears, has things inside of there that help you smoothly transition power from one side to the other side on that axle. But it's not connecting them at the same time, same rate. So correct. Say, I mean, they're probably, when you're going straight, it probably is pushing to both tires, but not the way that an off-roader would like.
Yeah.
So an open differential, when you go off-roading, that's when you see people, they're like trying to drive up something and they really only have one tire spinning, right? There's nothing happening. You see those one tire fires out there. You see that somebody that peels out on a road and leaves a strip of rubber and it's only one strip of rubber. It's not two sides. You know, that's an open differential. Nothing is in there forcing power to one side or the other.
Yep. And so, good way of doing it. Why would a differential be designed that way?
There's a really good video out there that
I love that video.
It's an old like military black and white video explaining differentials and really how they kind of came up with spider gears.
Yeah.
And how it works. But then they do go into like lockers in there. But really it's a matter of comfort. An open differential is more comfortable driving on the road.
Mainly because it allows you to turn a lot easier, right?
Yes, absolutely. It helps easily transfers the power from one side to the vehicle to the other, and primarily in turning situations.
Yeah. So it allows your tires on either side of the vehicle to turn at different rates. That's a differential rates, right? So that's where you get the name differential from. So, but by doing that, you don't always want your tires to spin at different rates, though.
No, not always.
There's a lot of situations where you want them to spin at the same rate, no matter what's going on. Right. Whether you have traction, whether you have a little bit of traction, whether you have a lot of bit of traction, you just want both tires spinning no matter what's going on. So that's where lockers come into play. And a differential locker will lock up your differential so that it cannot differentiate speeds anymore or rates of turning. And everything turns at the same rate. So we're going to dive into lockers.
Yeah.
And what kind of styles are out there and some of the price points of them. Kind of not necessarily, we're not going to give you exact prices because prices change, but we'll give you an idea, like a ballpark of pricing.
Yep.
And we'll talk about kind of the positives, negatives, risks associated with running one versus the other one. Is there one style of locker that everybody should be running, or is it different depending on your situation? So there's a lot of cool things going on with lockers. Differentials are one of my favorite parts of a vehicle. I don't know why. I love differentials.
I don't know why either.
It's such a weird thing, but
there's a lot of stuff going on in that specific spot.
It is,
right?
yeah.
It's a really interesting part of the vehicle because you have the drive shaft that's spinning one direction and coming into your axle.
It's spinning on a different plane than
your
everything else.
Yeah, then your axles are turning. Your axle shafts are rotating, right? And then and the magic of how to transfer the power from a drive shaft to your axle shafts is all in that differential.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty cool piece of machinery. Ingenious. Whoever came up with doing things that way is an ingenious person. So lockers, man, we're going to do some lockers.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we did do lights before lockers though. So we've talked about lights. I think, have we?
A lot.
We have talked about, we've done episodes.
Well, we've done episodes
on lights.
On like, on not like light bars and, ditch lights or anything like that.
We got to stop recording then.
But we've done
a different episode first.
But we've done it on like lanterns and a lot. We've done the coast lighting a few times. We talked about them and some other stuff. But
okay,
we have done some light discussions.
Okay, so we have not done a focused. We have not done a focused light episode yet. So
it was more a wide angle light episode.
Okay, not a laser beam focused one.
No.
Okay,
but before we can really get to lockers, I think we should talk about limited slip and posi.
I agree, because people talk about those a lot in a differential and locker situation. Like people ask, "Hey, what kind of locker do you have?" Oh, I have a posi, or I've got a limited slip.
Yeah, and they're really talking about the same thing. Posi traction is another name for limited slip. Yeah, it was. There was a company, it was Ford, Chevy, or one of those that had they didn't want to say, oh, it's a limited slip thing. It was a posi traction. Yeah. And then they made it a little bit more elaborate or whatever. Yeah. But it was a limited slip is really what it comes down to. And limited slip is probably the lowest level locker-esque thing that you might be able to get. I don't know. Like, I don't even know if we want to consider it a locker. Because it doesn't lock both sides evenly together.
No, they do not.
It has inside of the carrier of the differential, they put a bunch of friction plates or clutch plates inside of there. I'm not entirely sure what that's made up.
So hold on, real quick before you continue. What is a carrier of a differential?
Okay. Yeah. So there's a bunch of parts to a differential. From the drive shaft coming down, roughly speaking, that turns your pinion.
The drive shaft spins your pinion.
Mm-hmm. That pinion touches your ring gear. The ring gear is attached to your carrier, and that's sort of the carrier is roughly saying is the thing that holds the differential parts together.
Yeah, kind of carries all the parts.
Carries all the parts. The bearings attached to the carrier, the ring attaches to the carrier, the spider gears and all the little trinket things in there.
Spinny things inside
are all roughly attached to the carrier or held in by the carrier one way or another. Yeah. And then the axle shafts slide into the carrier, more or less. And then that's what spins your tires.
Yep. Cool. So a limited slip is a carrier.
See, I'm not entirely sure if it replaces the carrier or if it goes inside where the spider gears are and there's a bunch of clutch plates or friction plates inside of there, that once one side of your vehicle's tire spins faster than the other side, those plates sort of bind up or grab that pressure and start sending power or like traction in a way to the tire that's not spinning as fast.
Yeah.
And so this is the first thing that we see where now we're taking power in a way from the side that is loose and we're sending it to the side that is restricted.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's not a 1-to-1.
No.
So
it's not a full-on locking engaged where everything is guaranteed to spin the same rate no matter what.
Right.
Because it's kind of like friction plates rather than like teeth on a gear meshing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to think about it, and it kind of is similar, this is really sort of the same thing. It's sort of close to 2-foot driving.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're slipping on one side and you actually start pressing your brake, it's now sort of applying some more power to the other side because you're having to drive through the brakes and move forward. And so it's sort of, that's a cheating way if you don't have lockers to try and get both your tires working together. But limited slip kind of helps that. It's sort of a same way.
Yeah. So when we were doing our little limited research here before starting the show, a term that kept popping up that I hadn't heard of before is called a differentiating force.
Yes.
And so what that means is if you have one tire solidly on the ground, not spinning at all, another tire is up in the air and spinning at 100 miles an hour, there's no differentiating force. You need a differentiating force to counteract the spinning of the tire in the air going with free spin, right?
Yeah.
You need something there to create a differentiating force to then make the limited slip and the clutch plates and everything start working. And so that's just something to counteract your drivetrain spinning the tire, right?
Right.
And so by applying brakes, you're applying a differentiating force to get those clutch packs to start engaging and sending power to the other tire that's down on the ground, not moving.
Right.
Yeah. So that's your kind of your limited slip. And that's one of the tricks with limited slips is applying the brakes so that you're creating that differentiating force. If you've got all 4 tires on the ground and you have some traction with the ground, usually by applying more gas, you're creating a higher differentiating force between the ground because there's something there to push back on. But if you have a tire hanging up in the air, there's no differentiating force to counteract your drivetrain power.
Right.
And so that's why you use your brakes.
Yeah.
But if you're on ground, usually that differentiating force is being caused by the ground traction, which keeps both your tires somewhat spinning about the same speed. It tries to with those clutch plates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think you absolutely need to have a limited slip to try the brake trick. I think it'll work as well with an open differential. I think you're now restricting what's going on the inside of the axle so that it's applying forces in more places.
Yeah.
And that meaning more or less it's transferring power to the tire that's not spinning.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. It's sort of it's a cheating locker method.
Yeah.
Right. So and then so that's pretty much limited slip. It's a bunch of clutch plates inside there that are transferring power from the spinning side to the non-spinning side, but it's not transferring all the power, and it's also not doing it evenly. It's reduced significantly.
Yep. So similar to a limited slip is a torsion differential.
Torsion or torsion?
It's spelled Torsen.
Torsen. Okay.
So torsion differential.
Yeah, this is one that I've never heard that term.
Yeah.
I know the locker that is associated with, but I've never heard a torsion locker. I've never heard of that.
Right. And so it's similar to a limited slip in the sense that it's not going to give you a 100% engaged all the time. It just uses a different mechanism to achieve drive to both sides. A limited slip or posi likes to use clutch plates. A torsion likes to use a system of worm gears and spur gears in order to achieve this. And so it's similar concept, but should last you longer because you don't have friction plates rubbing on each other.
Right.
So
yeah, you've got gears now interacting at this point. The locker that really associates a torsion locker for me is the Eaton True Track.
Yes.
That is a torsion style locker.
Yeah.
And it's really just these helical gears like on inside the carrier that will transfer the tire rotation from one side to the other.
Yep.
But once again, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio or anything. So
it doesn't lock stuff together. It just keeps everything running roughly as close to the same rate as possible.
Yeah. And you would really put these in, for the most part, you can put them in a 4-wheel drive vehicle, but I wouldn't. If you're doing rock crawling, this isn't the best.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're doing some things out at like Moab, it's probably okay.
Yeah.
But it's probably it's a little better if you're actually putting a more true locker in there than sort of a limited slip.
Yeah. These style limited slips, torsion styles, true tracks, whatever you want to call them, they're great for on-road driving. They're not good for off-road driving. So if you're planning on doing off-road driving of any kind, I'd highly recommend looking into an actual locker and not anything we've talked about so far.
Yes.
So
yeah, if you own a Jeep and you primarily drive on the road, these are great.
I agree. Yeah. So let's get into lockers, shall we?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Fun time here.
Fun stuff.
Yeah. I think what we called the first category here is auto lockers.
Yeah.
Which is not to be confused with Autobots.
Yeah. Or yeah. Correct. Although one of them is kind of like an Autobot. It just kind of transforms and works. And you don't really know how it works.
I don't really know how any of these work. They're all magic to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So an auto locker or kind of a mechanical locker, they're all sort of mechanical. So I didn't really want to use that term, but it's more, it does it on its own, right? It's not a selectable locker. A lot of these there's like lunchbox lockers, there's Detroit lockers. Detroit's kind of a name, but it's this thing that notices once one tire is spinning faster than the other, an action happens inside the differential and connects both axle shafts together.
Yep. Yeah, and it's usually they connect it together through some sort of splines or gear teeth, something like that, to engage both sides of the carrier. So essentially what would normally be your side gears in your carrier, they kind of get replaced with these kind of meshed together plates that connect to themselves to each other once something happens. And that's different. That something is kind of a little bit different depending on what you have.
Yeah, which model you get. Or which company makes it. They're all a little different. They all work similar, roughly. Yep. Now, there is a slight difference between a lunchbox locker, which is sort of a generic term for different types of locker, like a Spartan locker is one of those, compared to more of a mechanical connection,
like a Detroit
or a Grizzly. Yeah, a lunchbox locker is a series of more random parts that fits inside of your carrier and replaces either the clutch pack of a limited slip or the spider gears of an open differential.
Yep.
And it works the same. It's just something that you can more easily install yourself because you just undo stuff on the inside and throw this contraption sort of inside of the carrier, and it works for you and connects.
Yep.
Now since it's smaller, it is slightly weaker, but it is it's like 3 times cheaper than the next one that we're going to talk about. So there is definitely a strength to price ratio here. and what do you want and how, like, what's the value to you?
Yeah, totally. They're nice because you keep your same carrier, you keep your ring gear, you keep your pinion. You don't have to redo any of your gears. You literally just take out the spider gears and I believe your side gears inside your carrier and replace it with this little metal cylinder, pretty much is what it kind of looks like. And once you get that in there, then you now have an auto locker. It will default open most of the time. That's spring loaded to stay open. And once something happens, whatever that something is, depending what company built it, it ends up locking itself together in a similar fashion to how limited slips work. Just instead of using clutch plates, they have actual teeth that mesh together. So it's nice. Like Jimmy said, they're very inexpensive, very affordable to get an auto locker that has open and locked situations. What would be the right word?
Well, times that you would need it. I don't know what you're going for here.
Phases that it
options.
Yeah. So it'll open and it'll lock. So you do have open, nice, relatively nice street driving and relatively nice off-road capabilities out of it too, with a cheap thing. The downside, like Jimmy said, is they are not the most robust. They're probably the least robust locking option out there.
This would be my cheapest but weakest barrier of entry, right? This is if you're going to get a locker, if you the first sort of thing that we're talking about here, as in it's something that is for the most part locking your driver's side and passenger side tires together on the same axle. This is it. They're like $150-ish dollars. They're not a lot.
Yep.
And it'll function. Yep. Now, if you're going to go wheel the Rubicon multiple times in a year, I would probably not suggest this. It's probably doable, and there's probably people that do it.
You need to have a lighter weight vehicle to do it.
You definitely would like a lighter weight vehicle, but you would put a lot of stress on this. The next one up, sort of more of a mechanical locker, Detroits or Grizzlies and things like that, replace the entire carrier.
Yep.
And so you attach the ring gear to that locking mechanism. And so it's not this small piece that you're putting in there. It's a much larger item, like more teeth engaging, more surface area that it's grabbing on, just a bigger unit, which more or less makes it stronger ultimately.
Typically, when it comes to metal parts, having more metal on something makes it stronger for the most part. And this is no exception there. So replacing the entire carrier makes this behave similarly as a lunchbox locker, but much, much, much stronger than a lunchbox locker. The downside to this style locker is that you're going to have to redo your gears. Or, I mean, you can use the same gears, but they have to be reset back up. You still have to get them set up with the shim packs and dealing with your backlash and all that stuff. So your pinion depth, you're going to have to redo that, which means you have to redo your preload. So doing this is quite a bit more expensive to do. The locker in and of itself, the locker and carrier is 2-3 times more expensive than a lunchbox locker. And then you add on the labor of doing your gears as well.
Right.
So you're starting to jump up in price pretty big once you start getting out of lunchbox lockers and into auto lockers.
Yeah. I just did a quick search for Detroit locker and they range. All the lockers in this category, for the most part, after my search on Detroit, range from like $600-ish to $900.
Yeah.
So they're vastly more expensive, but once again, they are much stronger.
Yeah.
Here, I just did a lunchbox locker search, and they're $200 to $300-ish.
Okay. Yeah. So it's quite a bit more of a jump. I did find out that Detroit lockers have been used. They were kind of started and invented in the 1940s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so they've been used since then. It's a very reliable, proven locker design.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they work great. I mean, I have had a Detroit locker in Bobcat for many, many, many years. It's actually the one that had the ring gear that broke on Fordyce.
Yeah.
I believe that one was a Detroit locker. I think that was.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. And then since then I've thrown in a Grizzly, and they're great. I mean, I like it a lot. They're good for on-road and off-road driving because they do, when you're driving straight and there's no stress on the wheels,
No differentiating forces.
Yeah, no differentiating forces. Yeah, thank
I
you.
have hard time saying that too.
They're not engaged and you're driving around like normal. Though, if you do accelerate around a corner, they could engage and you'll hear a bang or a pop and your vehicle can jump a little and it'll lock up and then you'll probably like do these little skipping noises and if you're making a sharp corner or anything and it locks up and it's just not as easy to drive in that moment. But as soon as you kind of go straight, it opens itself up and you continue on down the road.
Yeah, that's the downside to them is they make driving more interesting. But once you get used to it, it's just like anything else. So once you're expecting how it behaves when you're driving, it's just fine. But the first time you have it and you go around a corner and it locks up in mid corner on you and you're like, whoa, I can't turn anymore.
Yeah.
Or it's harder to turn. It's or the first time it does it in the rain.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And your rear end gets loose.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a different experience, and you really you morph your driving kind of around it, where you're coasting through corners instead of accelerating out of them. Because as soon as you hit that acceleration pedals, because the way that your tires are in a turn, where the inside tire is turning slower than the outside tire, you have that differentiating force, whatever you want to call it. They engage, and then it wants to turn both tires at the same rate.
Yep. So what is you said Grizzly locker? Is that different from a Detroit, or is that just different brand?
It's a different brand.
Gotcha. So
it's a different brand, same style locker.
Cool. Awesome.
I think it's Yukon's
Detroit. Quote, unquote.
Yeah.
Whereas Eaton, I think, has the Detroit, and Yukon is Grizzly. So so that's your auto lockers, right? Now let's get into selectable lockers.
Yeah.
So what's different about selectable lockers from auto lockers?
The real difference here, I would just say, is simply put, is you can turn them on or you can turn them off. You can have them engage or disengage when you want them to.
Yep, exactly. The locker does not decide when it wants to engage and disengage. You get to choose when it's on and when it's off.
Yeah. Now, simply put, the mechanism inside the axle is pretty damn similar to an auto locker.
Yeah.
There are some slightly different tweaks because now there's a solenoid or air or electrical thing in there that's disengaging and re-engaging them. But the way that they kind of work with, gears and different ways that they connect is all similar.
Yeah. Yep. So there's mainly 3 different ways selectable lockers are actuated. And that is air, electric, and cable.
Correct. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about them. Selectable, like you said, the mechanism that locks your axles together, your wheels together, is all for the most part similar.
Yeah.
Inside these guys, users get to select them differently. So how does an air locker select an air to lock or engage?
Yeah, how does it work? How does it work? Right?
How does it work? What's happening?
I've never done an A or B air locker. Like I've never done one. So I'm probably going to, I have the concept down, but I might be backwards.
Okay.
But I'm assuming that the air pressure presses something and engages the locker.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
It was that, or the air pressure releases something and it opens it up. So
yeah. And so, that's pretty much it. And then you have some magic stuff going on with solenoids that allow the air system to open up and allow air to get into the differential and the locker and engage the locker. But yeah, for the most part, it's an air solenoid that allows air in, and then that pressurizes the 2 plates together.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is so similar to an electric e-locker, right? There's the switch you turn on, a solenoid is activated, and then it pushes the locker together or disengages the locker. So it's a similar concept for the e-locker, but a cable locker is slightly different from there.
Yeah. And so, instead of using air as your actuating force or 12-volt electricity as your actuating force, it uses an actual mechanical cable. So a lot how like mechanical parking brakes work. You have a cable that's ran and routed so that it's at a close enough tension. And when you pull on the cable, it engages those locking plates inside the differential, your locker.
Is that a zip locker?
No, zip locker is essentially Yukon's air locker.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
I was trying to think. The only one that I have in my brain that uses a cable is the Unimog.
Oh, yeah. But Ox Locker.
Ox Locker.
Ox Locker is the other big one.
Yeah.
So here's the trick with Ox Locker. Ox Locker has now, their cable locker, I believe, is all the same, but they now have air and 12-volt electric systems to pull the cables for you.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of got this like electric solenoid that pulls the cable for you and then releases tension on the cable to unlock your locker. Yeah. And then same thing for a pneumatic. It has a pneumatic system to pull and disengage your cable for you.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you have the mechanicalness so that if your air or electric fails, you can still go into your rig and pull the cable and zip tie it up or something, or tie it to something so it doesn't disengage on you.
Yeah. I'm just picturing this little like hydraulic ram that sort of is on your axle that just kind of, it's like 4 inches or whatever. And you're like, click it on and the ram goes, pulls your cable and like, you just have it like off the top of your differential or something.
Like I haven't looked into them to see how they work, but when I was looking at getting away from my air lockers, when I was building my axles, I seriously considered Ox Locker because I liked the mechanical ability of them. And then I saw that they had options. I didn't look into how the options worked. And then I found out Eaton made e-lockers. And I was like, okay, I'm just going that route.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a quick second. But I think before I want to jump there, I would like to say that you were considering the cable locker because the thing is, if for some reason, if something happened on, I guess, the cable side of things, or if something happened in regards to air or electric, if you have the cable, you can still manually pull the cable or release the cable to activate your lockers. There's still a feature on the outside of a cable locker that allows you to engage it or disengage it, which is nice because you could have electrical problems and you could have air problems. And that's sort of the negative side of some of these things that I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to start with air locker because you just got away from your ARBs.
I did.
And you went to e-lockers, electronic lockers. And why was that?
A couple of reasons. The main reason is an air system built into a vehicle is a very complex system. It's simple in thought, right? It's simple in theory, but you have a lot of little parts that have to get put together to create an airtight system. And we take our vehicle, I take my vehicle in freezing temperatures, really hot temperatures, and in dust, in dirt, put it underwater. Like I'm taking my vehicle and putting it through a lot of different scenarios. And it's hard to keep an air system 100% airtight, no leaks forever in all those scenarios. They end up requiring quite a bit of maintenance. And so I was like, I didn't want to deal with it anymore. That, and I kept having issues with blowing the seals inside.
Okay.
Yeah. And because of that seals blowing inside the locker, I was getting gear oil coming back up my airlines.
Right.
So I was like, it's just too complex of a system. I want a simpler system.
Right.
For my lockers.
There are a lot of moving parts and things that happen with air lockers. They're a cool feature. I mean, it's nice. And I think a lot of people really liked them because one, you now had to have an air compressor of some sort. Right. And that meant now you can air your tires back up.
Yeah. So it's kind of a dual purpose system.
It was kind of a dual purpose. But now there's so many great off-road compressors out there, Morphlate included, that I think air lockers are kind of going backwards in a way.
I think it's starting to become outdated technology. The really nice thing about air lockers that you cannot do with e-lockers is you can turn air lockers on at almost any speed.
Okay.
That's a nice thing. They actuate very quickly.
Right.
Because of the air pressure in the air system. And so because of that, you can actuate them, turn them on at any speed. And it's a much stronger carrier. Air lockers these selectable lockers do replace your entire carrier. in your differential. And ARB makes a very stout, very strong carrier.
Got it. Okay.
At least compared to the e-locker carriers. And that's the other big player. That's the only really big carrier in the e-locker game is Eaton. But Eaton to save...
Or factory stuff.
Or factory stuff.
Yeah.
And Eaton makes a lot of factory stuff too.
Right.
So the thing that Eaton does, and it's smart on their part, is to streamline production and production costs. A lot of their carriers that are about the same size, so like 9-inch differentials to 10.5, 11-inch differentials, they all use the same carrier.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you end up on your 9s, like the 9-inch Eaton. I haven't done a comparison to a 9-inch ARB carrier. I would imagine they'd be roughly about the same strength. Probably ARB has the upper edge.
Okay.
But if you compare ARB's 10.5-inch carriers to Eaton's 10.5-inch carriers, it's a no comparison. The ARB is a lot bigger and stronger and meatier, beefier of a carrier.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the carrier is definitely a lot stronger with the air lockers, the ARBs. I haven't looked at Yukon's for comparison. But yeah, that's one downside of Eaton is that they use the same carrier for production purposes.
Smart business, but not so much in usability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, the nice thing about e-lockers is that they're easy, very, very simple to set up. You put them in your differential, like, so your differential setup is the same, but the actuation setup is cakewalk compared to an air system. You run two 18 gauge wires. They use like, I think 1.5 amps, 1 amp of electricity.
Oh, so
12
like
volt
nothing.
electricity, nothing. It doesn't even require a ground. It's a loop.
Oh.
So you run
It's open or closed.
It's open or closed. You run a wire from your switch to the locker and then back to your switch.
Right.
And so it applies, and then you have a power incoming to the switch. So it's a power loop, and it's super simple. You don't have to worry about routing a mechanical cable to make sure it's at the right tension. For actuation, you don't have to worry about maintaining an air system. But the downside to e-lockers is you should only be locking them at low speeds because their locking speed is decreased.
Mm-hmm.
The rate at which they lock up. So you can't lock them going fast. You'll shear teeth off. It doesn't engage fast enough.
Don't they also take a little bit of rotation for them to lock?
Yep.
Which some people don't like, especially if you're coming from an air locker. You're like, wait, I have to rotate it halfway
quarter
around
turn,
quarter turn of the carrier. So before it locks, like what if I'm stuck right now, or what if I need them immediately?
Yep.
You want me to like back up a little bit so it'll engage?
Yep.
And I think my only argument is well, look at the obstacle and think if you're going to need your locker before you hit it, instead of attempting it in open.
Yeah.
And getting yourself into trouble and then not being able to engage it. So it's just going to be a slightly different way of driving.
Exactly. I had to change a little bit of driving style because I used to do that a lot. I would attempt to obstacles open, and try and get through them open. If I couldn't, then I would engage the lockers in the mid obstacle. And I started thinking about that, and really, I'm pretty sure I've told this story, but where I figured out it was happening was the first time I did Soup Bowl. I came up Soup Bowl. I had a leak in my air system, and so the compressor wouldn't turn off, but I had enough pressure there to engage the lockers. Came up Soup Bowl, and as soon as I got to the top of Soup Bowl, I turned off my lockers.
Yeah.
And then I tried to continue forward and got hung up and stuck on the FU rock on one of my tires.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like I was stuck. It was just the vehicle was pushing me into my tire into the rock. So the tire wasn't turning.
Right. Because the locker was off.
on. There's too much force there to let the tire turn. And so instead of climbing the rock, it just dug me into the rock and pushed the vehicle over. Yeah. Like it was going to roll me over.
But you didn't flop.
I didn't flop, but it was I was like, if I push harder, it may just push me over all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that, I learned if you just keep the lockers on, and if you're worried about snapping an axle due to having your lockers on, you need bigger axles.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's no reason, in my opinion, to wheel without a locker if you think you may end up needing one at all. Mm-hmm. It's harder on your vehicle and your suspension, your drivetrain, everything to wheel open and without a locker, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think that's a good advice.
Yeah.
And good foresight. I mean, I think that it makes sense. And I just want to go back and touch on like and I'm not downing air lockers. Like they're a fantastic system.
They are a great
There's
system.
just more things that can go wrong with an air locker. And then you have to like, oh, I got a hole in my airline and now I need to replace an airline. Or my compressor's not turning on. Now I don't have any way to get air. Right. Or, the little hose on the inside is rubbing up against my your ring gear and has now created a hole. And now I've got to fix it. Where an e-locker is, like you were saying, it's just 2 wires and it needs electrical signal.
Yep.
Right. And if your battery's dead, you can probably get that power from a battery or
12 volt. If you have a jump battery, like a jump box,
yeah.
you can easily wire lockers up to your jump box and it'll last for a very long time because they don't pull a lot of power.
Yeah, I was going to say probably a 9 volt.
Yeah, right.
Or something like a double A.
Yeah,
something to just switch it one way or another. So there's a lot of opportunities there. Well, obviously a cable locker, if there's something that happens upstream, then you can always just pull the cable. So I think that there's a personal preference here, right, of which one you like. I do want to say though that one of the main reasons a lot of people like selectable lockers out on the trail is the help and ease of turning.
Yes.
Where they're recent, I think we've talked about this too. There was a video out about should you put your switchable locker in the front or in the back. And it turned out that you should put the switchable locker in the rear because the front will pull you around.
Yep.
Where if you leave it in the rear, it'll push you.
Yeah.
And you won't make as tight as a corner. But having a selectable locker allows you to disengage times to help you turn, to make it easier to turn. And you're not fighting your power steering or anything that's up there to keep you turning while you're in that turn.
Yeah. It's the same concept, in my opinion, as running 15 gears, right? In our dual case Toyotas, I rarely use my low gears anymore.
Right.
But it's really nice to have them when I do want to use them. It just gives you more options of usability without being a super, super complex system. Right.
Right.
Because we talk about simplifying a system, but then if you have to make a system complex in order to get more options out of it. And that's kind of the case with auto lockers, selectable lockers. Yeah. And so you have more options to you. If you need to make a tight turn and you don't really need the lockers, you can turn all your lockers off and make a super tight turn. And then you have the ability to turn them back on when you're making a big climb with a bunch of articulation in it or something. So you just have more options with those. And especially if you have a vehicle that is street driven a lot, selectable lockers are, in my opinion, the only way to go.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Because now you don't have the auto locking randomness around a corner because your lockers are turned off and they're never going to engage and jump your vehicle or make you, start chirping or any of that because you have the option to turn them off while you're on the street.
Yep. Or they don't wear out your $2,000, $2,500 tires.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, if you're having a selectable locker kind of gets you the best of both worlds. You get the street drivability and you get the trail performance, but they are expensive. They're the most expensive option.
Yep.
I think
they're the most complex. I was like rattling my head there for a second. I was like this one. Yeah, they are the most complex to put in and install.
Yep, they are for sure. You need some sort of system to actuate them. And so, you're setting up something else for it. So it's a complex thing, most expensive, but if you're looking at the kind of the best of both worlds options, that's your option. That's where it is.
Yeah. Now probably the least complex.
Yeah.
The last one on our list is a spool or a welded locker.
Yep. So a spool, with a spool or welded, we've talked about the two different states of a locker, either open, disengaged, or engaged and locked, right? With a spool and a welded differential, you don't get those options.
Well, you kind of get one of them.
You get one option. You can have any option you want, any color you want, as long as it's black.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're locked 100% of the time, all the time, every moment of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Or that differential's life.
Yep.
Whatever way. Yeah.
Yep. So you never get a differentiating speeds of your tires. So anytime you go around a corner, The nice thing is it's going to be a consistent feeling corner, unlike a Detroit or Grizzly that will lock on you mid corner and the vehicle wants to jump or something. A spool or welded won't do that.
No.
You'll just always be locked, so it'll always not want to turn as much.
Pretty much, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I have a spool in the back of Bobcat.
Mm-hmm.
Been driving around all the time.
Yep.
And, drive it around often, but it's definitely something you could do. Now, is it the best thing for your vehicle? No. It probably puts the most amount of stress out of all these options on your axle and probably some upstream as well. Worst thing for your tires
on daily
driving applications.
Yep.
But I might argue strongest.
I would argue strongest.
Yep. And simplest out there.
And cheapest.
Yeah. They're probably $100-ish, $130 or something.
For a spool.
Yep. I'm guessing that's probably in that ballpark.
And welding is free if you know a buddy. It costs you a couple beers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of work, but I'm not even as much as a spool because welding is really, which I don't really advise. If you're going to weld it, you might as well buy a spool. Yeah. It's just made for that purpose where welding could fail and fracture and break, and then you're running into more problems. I have a welded spool or a welded third member. I rocked a welded third member for many years and it worked. And it was, I think it was Miller Weld.
The Miller Mighty Grip
by Hustle Nuts. But it works. And you more in that sense, you're really just welding the spider gears to each other so that they can't rotate or turn in any fashion. And it does permanently seal that together. Yeah. Though I did recently see somebody came out, or probably has done it a while ago, this oddly bent cut thing.
Insert plates
that purposely fits the spider gears and into the carrier and side gears and all. Yeah. And you weld all that together, and that would work better than what we did, which was back in the day. But when we did it, it was, like early 2004 maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, that's like you're in high school or like in college, you don't have a job or anything yet, and you have literally no money because all your other money is going to Top Ramen.
Yeah. Or Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. Taco Bell's expensive right now.
I know it is.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was another side story. Anyways. Yeah, it's
a cheap method.
It's a cheap method. It does work. You need to know somebody who knows welding and knows what they're doing, because it's very easy to weld those gears incorrectly. The nice thing about it, I would highly, highly recommend find a company selling one of those plates.
Yeah.
Because with the just regular welding the gears together, you're welding the spider gears to your side gears. Whereas when you put that plate in and you're welding everything, you're now welding everything effectively to each other.
Right.
All the gears get welded to all the gears via that plate. So it makes a very strong, much stronger connection in there. But it's super cheap. Super cheap, super affordable to do. Just get somebody who really knows what they're doing when it comes to welding those.
Right. Absolutely. If
you have an extra $100-$150, go with a spool.
Yep.
It is a replacement of your entire carrier.
Yep.
So you will have to reset your gears on it, but it's designed for that purpose. They are extremely strong and they work great. So you will always have traction and power to both wheels with a spool. If you don't, you got some big problems going on.
Right. Yeah. And I think a spool, like we've just sort of said it, there's no turning this off. There's no off method, right? It's 100% on all the time. It's locked up both. It's connecting literally both axle shafts together with a piece of metal that sort of just flares up and holds your ring gear.
Yeah.
Right. There's not a lot to it.
Yeah.
It's very strong. It completely replaces the carrier, like we said, but it's just beef. I mean, it's one of the strongest things like that you can add to that axle for sure.
Yeah. So any other options for, what about the high lift handle spool or the high lift handle differential?
Yeah. That's wasn't powered. That was a free spin scenario.
That's open. It's always open.
It's always it. Yeah, but no power to it.
Yeah.
It was more or less a drag axle at that point.
Yeah, trailer axle, pretty much.
Yeah, that was a fun little story. But yeah, I don't know of any other options for lockers. I think that was a good list and at least a good overview of what's available out there.
Different tiles or styles and types.
Yeah, we went from open, playing nothing inside, open to open scenarios, spider gears spinning freely. We went to posi and limited slip styles, which has the clutch plates, torsion bars, which has more of a helical kind of gearing on the inside.
There's a bunch of weird little gears. Yeah,
weird gears that
magic.
Works similar to a posi or limited slip style. Then we went to the auto lockers, which are like the Lunchbox or the Detroits. And then manual lockers, which is the air electrics or the cable actuated ones. And then spools and welded. So
always locked
kind of scenario. So yeah, I think that really does cover about all the different versions of lockers out there. I'm sure there's some other odd, weird ones, out there that
I'd love to hear about them.
Yeah, I want to hear about them.
Yeah.
I think I do want to kind of close with, if you are doing any gear reductions or gear work on your vehicle, like you went up on tire size and now you need to add new gearing to your vehicle because your tires are large, I would highly suggest this is when you contemplate if you want some sort of locker in your vehicle, right? Because you're already in there, you're already doing this work. You might as well throw some sort of locker into your vehicle because you're already there, right? You're already in the process of this. You're already having to reset gears. You're already having to, space the pinion off, do all that work once. Yeah. Right. So don't do it and then have to pull it apart again. Then throw a locker in at another point. Save up, do it all at once and get it done right the first time. Yeah. Instead of kind of piecing it together. That or put your gearing in and then weld it. One or the other.
Yeah. Right. Cool. I like it. If you guys have feedback on this, you can think about something we missed. If you think about something that we just totally got completely wrong, please let us know. If there's other options out there, I would love to learn about some different mechanisms for differentials and how they work and how to lock up your axle shafts together. I think it's super cool. I'd love to hear about how they work. I'm sure Jimmy would too, because he's a gearhead. And I'm sure a bunch of listeners would too, because a lot of our listeners are gearheads. If you're listening to this, you probably like learning about gears and stuff and vehicles. So send those in. You can email. You can reach us on Instagram. Send us a link to something you see on Instagram. That's always fun. And then we also have the voicemail you can call and describe what you're talking about too at 916-345-4744. Which is also in the show notes. So I think that about does it.
Yeah.
James?
Yeah.
Do you have any final words for everybody?
I want to see a hydro locking system.
Ooh, and with that, my friends, keep crawling.
I got one for you.
I'm not ready.
Oh.
Okay, I'm ready.
I got one for you.
Wait, hold on. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand how this feels now. I got one for you.
I'm ready, sir.
I lost it. What?
Bonus if it's a joke about Christmas and lockers.
Yeah, right. I got one for you.
I'm ready for jokes.
What's worse than a reindeer with a runny nose?
A nose with a running reindeer?
No. A snowman with a fever.
Yeah, yeah. But what if the snowman likes warm hugs?
I don't know.
Like
What?
Kristoff.
Oh, yeah. Not Kristoff. What's
Olaf.
his name? Olaf. There it is.
Yeah.
What did one cranberry say to another at Christmas?
I don't know.
'Tis the season to be jelly.
It's true. Very true. You ever make cranberry jelly?
No,
I
Never
either.
have. I've eaten it.
Yeah.
Never made it.
My uncle used to make it.
Why wouldn't Ebenezer Scrooge eat at a pasta restaurant?
Did he feel like an impasta?
No,
Oh.
that's a fun one though. It cost a pretty penny.
Yeah.
Penny
For-
pasta.
Yeah, for Ebenezer Scrooge though, was he a cheapskate too?
Yeah, big cheap.
Oh,
Huge cheapskate.
really?
Yeah.
I need to watch that movie again too. Apparently,
Guess so. Just watch the Disney one. It's pretty good.
Okay.
We watched it when the mini assistant was sick.
Okay.
Where does Santa always stay when he goes on vacation?
At the hotel.
At the hotel.
Oh, got it. I missed that one. You got any more? You done?
What is
This
a
is
Christmas?
your time to shine, Jimmy.
What is a Christmas carol that you can sing to fruits on a happy event?
What?
Have yourself a berry little Christmas.
Okay.
That one was pretty.
The lead-in was bad, is what it was.
What does Santa do when the reindeer drive too fast?
He jumps out.
He holds on for dear life.
For dear life.
Dear life.
Dear's life.
For dear life.
Dear life.
Yeah.
Dear life.